Hello once again, friends and enemies. My name is Toxy, your self-proclaimed god of gimmick decks. Checkmate, atheists! This week we're going to be talking about one of the most interesting weird deck techs that I've had to talk about, Batteryman. What makes Batteryman interesting is, as opposed to these other decks, Batteryman seems like it could work super well. I just never see anybody play it. And it's not just me seeing people play it, it's also like the amount of people that play Batteryman is pretty small. In case you don't know, Batteryman is a thunder-based archetype that has a lot of graveyard shenanigans. And that's their whole shtick, so let's go ahead and take a look at the deck. And we'll talk about it a little more in detail than I've been doing in these videos so far. Alright, here we are with Batteryman. This deck took a lot less time than other decks did. This deck was actually a little bit easier for me personally to build with. Let's go ahead and get down here into the actual deck. So this is the Batteryman deck. We're going to go through it and then we're going to talk about it after. And while I'm going through certain cards, I'll go ahead and explain why I kept them in there. Only certain ones. But let's go ahead and get started. So first up, we have Batteryman Industrial Strength. We've got 3 copies of him. This card cannot be normal summoned or set. This card cannot be special summoned except by removing from play 2 Batteryman monsters from your graveyard. Once per turn, you can remove from play 1 Thunder type monster from your graveyard to destroy a monster or a spell and trap on the field. Next up, we've got Batteryman Fuel Cell. If you control 2 or more face-up Batteryman monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. Once per turn, you contribute 1 Batteryman monster except this card to select 1 card your opponent controls and return it to the owner's hand. So a little bit more, better removal that doesn't destroy. We're going to go ahead and have 2 copies of Fuel Cell. Batteryman Charger. When this card is normal summoned, you can special summon 1 Batteryman monster except Batteryman Charger from your hand or deck. This card gains 300 attack and defense for each Thunder type monster you control. Really good just to fetch card here. I really liked the idea that it doesn't matter how it's summoned, you get a free extra monster. So obviously I'm running 3 of that in the deck. 3 Batteryman Solar. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can send 1 Thunder type monster from your deck to the graveyard. If a Thunder monster is normal or special summoned while this monster is on the field, special summon 1 Batteryman Token. You can target 1 Batteryman effect monster you control or in your graveyard. This card's name becomes that monster's until the end of phase. You can only use each effect of Batteryman Solar once per turn. So really good, get rid of a card and put it into your graveyard, which helps out Industrial Strength. And then, whenever a Batteryman is summoned, you get another free Batteryman. So just filling up your field with more Thunder monsters. Batteryman 9V. When this card is summoned, you can add 1 Batteryman monster from your deck to your hand. And if you do, this card's attack and defense become double its original attack and defense. You can only use each effect of Batteryman 9V once per turn. During the end phase, destroy this card. So it's quick, once per turn, get a free Batteryman into your hand, get a 2000 attack monster, and then, it's gone at the end of the turn. I've got 3 copies of this in the deck just because I thought it'd be an easy card, get it out, get a free Batteryman, and then you can just do your whole thing real quick. Batteryman AAA. When this card is normal summoned or flipped face up, you can special summon 1 Batteryman AAA from your hand or graveyard. So 3 of these because, you get to special summon free Batterymen. Obviously, you would want to pitch some of these to your graveyard so that you could play this and get them back from your graveyard. But it's just, fun little getting more Batteryman out onto the field. Batteryman AA. If all Batteryman AAs you control are in attack position, this card gains 1000 attack for each. If all Batteryman AAs you control are in defense position, this card gains 1000 defense for each. So, just a quick little making sure that you've got that extra backup. If you can get out a bunch of Batteryman AAs, you can really make this card stand out. You've got 3,000 attack monsters. So or 3,000 defense monsters, or, it changes based on what mode they're in. But if you can get all 3 of these guys out, you're solid. Next up, we've got 2 copies of Batteryman C. If all Batteryman Cs you control are in attack position, all machine-type monsters you control gain 500 attack for each Batteryman C you control. If all Batteryman Cs you control are in defense position, all machine-type monsters you control gain 500 defense for each Batteryman C you control. So, obviously, we don't have any machine-type monsters in this deck. I mainly have Batteryman C in here to pitch using Batteryman Solar so that you can bring out Industrial Strength much better. That's really the only reason Batteryman C is in here. Batteryman Micro Cell. We've got 3 copies of this one. Flip Effect. Special summon 1 level 4 or lower Batteryman monster from your deck, except Batteryman Micro Cell. After this card has been flipped face up, when it is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, draw a card. So, quick flip, summon a level 4 or lower Batteryman from your deck. Yeah. Just, it's a little bit slower version of Batteryman Charger. The fun thing about flip effects is that they activate when a monster gets attacked. So, it gets attacked, it flips up, it does its first effect, and then it automatically does its second effect because it's being destroyed. And lastly, we've got Batteryman D. Your opponent cannot select a Thunder-type monster you control as an attack target except for Batteryman D. I feel like this one speaks for itself. Keep it on the field and prevent your opponent from attacking the other monsters that you're using to build up your field. We are moving on to the spell and traps of the deck, and then there's no extra deck for this deck. Which I'm sure you noticed at the beginning, and it's just that Batterymen have no extra deck monsters, but let's get into Spell and Traps. Battery Charger. Pay 500 life points, special summon a Batteryman monster from your graveyard. 3 copies of this, we're sending Batterymen to the graveyard, might as well be playing them back out from the graveyard. 3 copies of Short Circuit, a normal spell. Activate only if you control 3 or more Batteryman monsters, destroy all cards your opponent controls. Very self-explanatory, just field wipe for your opponent. Personally speaking, I have 3 of these because I feel like it's going to be a card that can be utilized pretty often. I feel like you can probably get out Batterymen pretty fast in this deck. 3 copies of Quick Charger. It's a quick play spell. Add 2 level 4 or lower Batterymen monsters from your graveyard to your hand. And lastly for the deck, 3 copies of Portable Battery Pack, a continuous type spell. I generally like to keep continuous spells to a maximum of 2, but this one I felt like would be good to have at 3 just because it's the only trap card for the archetype. So, select 2 Batteryman monsters from your graveyard and special summon them in attack position. When this card is removed from the field, destroy those monsters, and when both of those monsters have been removed from the field, destroy this card. Super simple, like Call of the Haunted type card for Batteryman specifically. It just seems like a good idea to have a battery pack in there. And that is the deck. So, what do we think about this deck, and what support would I make for this deck, and how would I play this deck? I actually really like Batteryman. I've never built it before building this deck profile, and I think it's a pretty solid-ish type deck. Like, obviously it's not going to be crazy, super crazy effective purely, but I do think it's an interesting deck type, and I think it could be fun to play around with. I feel like it could do from having something kind of like an emergency teleport. Even if we made something like an emergency teleport for Thunder, which I don't think exists. I haven't been able to find one if there is one. But I feel like that could really improve this deck a lot. Other than that, I think it's pretty solid. So how would I play this deck? I probably wouldn't play it as pure as I did it like this. As you can tell, I left out the Volt-Tech Dragon just because I feel like Volt-Tech Dragon is too slow of a boss monster for this deck, and I feel like Industrial Strength does a better job at being a boss monster than the Volt-Tech Dragon does. Other than that, I would definitely try to find some extra deck monsters for this deck. The only one that really comes to mind right now is like some Summer Summoner, which isn't really going to help this deck all that much. Like, it'll help you special summon a little bit, but it's like a Link Spider for Thunder type monsters. I think it could help this deck in some ways, but I don't think it could be like the best help for this deck, Other than that, obviously, Thunder Dragon is always a archetype to splash into any Thunder deck. Definitely Thunder Dragon, I think, would run this deck pretty well. I feel like Watt could also probably be good to mix with this deck, although I feel like Watt's, their negate ability, I don't know if their negate ability affects Batteryman, because I don't remember if Watts are Watt specific or if they're Thunder type specific. Other than that, Thunder Seahorse I think would be a good addition to this deck. And then, of course, you know, there's like the non-Batteryman cards like Electromagnetic Shield and Recycling Batteries. I think with the way that this deck always seems to want to summon a monster, Judgment of Thunder would be like a good card to add in here. But yeah, that's how I feel about the deck, and that's how I would play the deck if I had it, if I wanted to play this deck, which I might. It seems pretty fun. Anyway, back to me. And that is Batteryman. Thunder is definitely one of the most interesting monster types in my opinion, because it used to be the least printed monster type, and now it's not. But yeah, how do you feel about the deck? Because I kind of like it. Let me know how you feel about the deck, how you would play it, if you feel like it could be better, what support you would print for it, and other stuff like that down below. And sorry that I didn't have a video last week, but I have a good excuse. I was playing Elden Ring. That's it. So, thank you for watching, and until next time, drink your water.